Long before the digital age, before office parks and remote work, our modern world was built by hand. It was literally forged in steel mills, carved out of coal mines, and woven in textile factories. So today, we're going to look at the lives of the 19th century workers who paid the price for all that progress, and in doing so, created the rights that so many of us have today.
All right, let's just start with one single number 14. What could that possibly represent? Well, for millions of people, this number, it was pretty much their entire life.
That's right, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we're not talking about some crazy crunch time or a busy season here. Nope, this was the norm. Just a relentless, exhausting grind. Forget the weekend as we know it. You got one day of rest, and then it started all over again.
So, what did that daily grind actually look like? Let's, really paint a picture of the world these workers lived in every single day. The work was just unbelievably grueling. You might be a textile worker in a factory so loud it was deafening, or a coal miner deep underground, or maybe a laborer laying railroad tracks across the country. And yeah, every job had its own unique set of dangers, but they all shared one thing. They were all just incredibly hazardous.
Just think about that for a second. No safety rules. Today we just assume there will be guardrails, safety gear, all that stuff. Back then, absolutely none of it. Losing a finger in a machine or getting some horrible lung disease from a mine, that was just part of the job. There was no compensation, no way to fight for your rights. And you know what's crazy? All that daily risk, all that gambling with your life, it was all just to survive, not to thrive. Which brings us right to the money, the economic reality for these folks and their families. Okay, so just look at these numbers. They are, wow. After a 14-hour day of backbreaking, dangerous work, a man might make $1.25. A woman, maybe doing the exact same job, got about half that. And kids, kids as young as 8 or 9, were earning just pennies. There was no way one person's income could support a family. Everyone had to work, the whole family. And this right here just shows you there was absolutely no safety net. There was no minimum wage, nothing. Get sick? Too bad. No paid leave. Job security? What's that? It just didn't exist. If you missed even one day for any reason, you could be fired, just like that, and someone would take your spot in a heartbeat. So with that kind of income, it's no surprise the living conditions were just grim. You had entire families crammed into 1 or 2 rooms in these awful, crowded tenement buildings where disease just spread like wildfire. This wasn't just a home, right? It was a direct result of a system designed to pay people just enough to keep them coming back to work the next day. That's it.
So when you look at all this, it's easy to just feel completely hopeless, right? The whole system is built this way. So how could one worker, or even 100 of them, really make a difference? How could anything possibly change?
Well, things changed because the workers themselves decided enough is enough. They started to organize, to fight back, and to demand a life that was about more than just surviving day to day. And this quote, it just nails the change in thinking. It wasn't about just putting up with it anymore. No, this became a fight for basic human dignity. And the idea at the heart of it all was so simple but so powerful. A fair day's wage for a fair day's work. And what they were asking for was super clear and focused. First, they wanted shorter hours, to actually have a life outside the factory. They demanded safer conditions, so they wouldn't have to literally risk their lives for a paycheck. They fought for fair wages that could actually support a family. And this one is huge. They fought to get kids out of the factories and into schools where they belonged.
Yeah, and this was not an overnight fight. Not at all. You can see here, it started small. Little strikes here and there in the early 1800s, but over time that grew. They formed organized labor unions, and by the end of the century, it was this massive movement of protests, one that people in power just couldn't ignore anymore.
Okay, so why does any of this history matter to us today? Because pretty much everything about our modern work life is built on the foundation of their struggle. The results are literally all around us. This comparison right here, it really says it all. That 8-hour day we think is so normal, yeah, they fought for that. All those safety rules that keep us safe at work, they bled for those. The fact that kids are in school and not in factories, that's their legacy.
Honestly, the whole idea that we as workers even have rights, that comes directly from their fight. So, the next time you clock out after 8 hours, or you see a safety sign on the wall, it's worth remembering none of this stuff was just handed to us. It was earned. It was forged in protest, and it was paid for with the incredible hardship of millions of regular people who just dared to demand a better life.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. So, when you think about your own job, the weekend, overtime pay, a safe place to work, which of those rights do you think was the absolute hardest to win? And what does that legacy, their legacy, really mean to you today?